What's going on, guys? This is going to be the fourth and final video in my small workbench build series that I'm posting. And I do apologize beforehand if I repeat myself a lot from what I've said in the other three videos, as it's been a few days in between filming this one and the other three. So I don't remember exactly all that I've gone over, and I kind of wanted this to be a summary video anyway, so I may go over a couple of things more than once here. And I guess if you're watching the videos, this will probably be the first one you want to watch, but being the fourth, you've probably watched the other three already. Hopefully you haven't completely started your build yet, as this may influence you to do a couple of different things. But nevertheless, this is the finished bench. As you can see from the last video, I've gone ahead and put the outer edge banding on, and what that does, it not only reinforces the top and bottom shelves of the bench a little bit, takes out any minimal flex you might have, or at least reinforces that, but it also protects that fragile plywood edge or OSB edge that we previously had exposed. Now, some people may not like this end grain being exposed. I don't really see it as a huge problem. This is just kind of a rough built workbench after all. But one thing you can do, and that I'll probably do as well, is get a 1/4-inch piece of tempered hardboard or any kind of replaceable durable top that you want to put over it, and that'll easily cover that end grain. Just put a couple screws on the corners to hold it down. And with something like a 1/4-inch thick tempered hardboard, you've got something that's fairly cheap and durable, but easily replaceable as well. And that'll kind of finish us off pretty nicely. Now, as far as the bill of materials on this, I know I told you I'd give you a little bit more exact of a count. I was building a couple of workbenches here and one or two other little things, so unfortunately I didn't count the exact number of 2x4s that I used on this bench alone, but I would estimate that you would want to buy 16 8-foot 2x4s. As far as the top, for the OSB, you could get away with a single sheet of 1/2 inch, or really even 7/16 if you wanted to, ripped in half for the top and bottom. Personally, I went with a 1-inch top, as I like my tops a little more durable and thicker, especially if I'm going to be mounting stuff through that. I want something for the screws to bite into, and it adds a little bit more rigidity and weight as well. But minimally, you would want a single sheet of 4x8 OSB that you can rip in half. If you went with two, that would be even better. You could either triple up on your top to have an 1.5-inch thick top, or you could do 1 inch thick for either side. Another thing you could even do, which I maybe wish I would have done as well, but would take a little bit more 2x4s, would be to add a middle shelf full length across, or even 2 middle shelves if you're so inclined. You could easily do that, and maybe you don't need a whole lot more as far as 2x4s, but that is an option. Keep in mind, once again, you can also use a different material for your top and your shelves, but that will probably come with a little bit more cost. If you wanted something a little bit nicer, more uniform, you could obviously use plywood, maybe a 5 or 7 layer plywood, or MDF, or anything like that. For me, I want it cheap and easy, so I went with OSB. And again, with that tempered hardboard top, which is optional, that gives you a little bit more reinforcement yet. You could also seal the OSB, paint it, anything like that, and get a little bit more mileage out of it. Now, once again, this is already a pretty heavy and solid top, or a workbench. I'm pulling and pushing on this top pretty hard, and not getting any movement or wiggle out of it really. But if you do feel like it needs reinforced a little bit more than it already is when you're done building it, that's fairly simple to do. Really just add some wood anywhere you can. Once again, as I stated, I space these joists for the top and bottom shelves out probably about 22 inches or so. a little bit less than 2 feet when it was all said and done. You could easily put them 16 on center, 12 on center, even tighter than that if you want. And not only will that make it more solid and rigid, but it'll add a little bit of weight to it as well. You could also double, triple, quadruple up on the top. Use more plywood. You could add some more uprights in the metal. And again, just adding more screws, more lumber, more weight, anything like that would make it even more rigid than it is. But for an average workbench and for what I'm going to use it for, it's really more than adequate as far as stability is concerned. And at least the way it is now, I can fairly easily push it around the shop if I need to, just by kind of pushing against it. If I had to estimate the weight, I'd probably say between 150 and 200 pounds. But again, I'm only estimating there. A little bit more lumber, maybe a different kind of lumber. You could even use 2x6s instead of 2x4s. Would easily give you a little bit more weight and arguably a little bit more stability for the overall bench. Not that there's really anything wrong with it now. If I got on top of there right now and started jumping up and down, you really wouldn't see a whole lot of movement or shaking at all. So I'm pretty confident with it as it is. So that's really pretty much it. As you can see, it's not a bad looking workbench, especially for the cost. Again, estimates are somewhere around $70, $75, including lumber and screws. Maybe a little bit cheaper if you use just one sheet of plywood or fewer 2x4s. Easily can be made for under $100. If you want to upgrade it, spend a little bit more. Again, you can use a little bit more lumber, put more shelves on it, put a little bit more weight into it, or some more premium lumber. And the cost can go up or down from there. But if you guys have any questions or suggestions, by all means leave them below. I know this wasn't a very detailed series as far as showing the actual construction. Hopefully you can fill in the blanks fairly well on your own. Again, my main goal with this bench was simplicity in design and construction. And again, something that was going to be cheap yet sturdy and usable as well. And hopefully I accomplished that. And if anything, gave you guys some more ideas for your own workbench. So I'm going to kind of get things situated in the shop here, hopefully get this in place either tonight or tomorrow, and start loading it up. And maybe I'll do an update down the road if I think of anything else to add, or if you guys have any questions that can't be answered in the comments. But again, I hope you enjoyed these 4 short videos, and good luck with any of your future workbench builds. We'll see you.